You'd like to get out your Bibles and turn with me to Isaiah 60. Isaiah 60. Have you ever been up on like a mountaintop, maybe up at Gatlinburg or out west, and you have this beautiful view, sweeping landscape, but it's kind of cloudy, and there's little patches of sunlight that come through. It's really pretty. It's a beautiful kind of sight, but your eye is immediately drawn to the light and what the light is shining on. And so that's a very interesting image that was coming to my mind as I was reading through Isaiah chapter 60, and that picture of the light coming through the clouds of darkness and shining particularly on one spot, and how our eyes are constantly driven to that spot. As you look in Isaiah chapter 60, you notice the first verse says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come. The glory of the Lord has risen upon you." There's this picture of light has come. The light has come and is shining. And so as we look at Isaiah chapter 60, really this first verse is going to set us up for our study tonight. We've been studying in Isaiah. We've seen a lot of hopes, a lot of promises that God has made. In the last couple of chapters, there's been statements of the wickedness and the evil of men and how we're all sinful. We all fall short of His glory and are in need of saving. And God has said in each of those chapters how He is planning to come and to save us Himself. Well, as we move to the last chapters of the book, the last 7 chapters, 60 through 66, what we're going to see is more promises. And these promises are given to us in a picture of a new Jerusalem, which is very interesting to see at the end of Isaiah's book. And it's going to reveal that to us as we study it together. But really, that tells you this is a lot of hope, a lot of promises that are going to be all throughout these chapters. And so there's a lot to look forward to and a lot to be excited about as we study this together. But the important part for us is to not just observe what it's saying, but try to interpret these things in light of what the New Testament has revealed to us. Obviously, throughout the book so far, we've seen very clearly that God has a strong desire to save His sinful people. And He has a desire to bless them, to pour out His Spirit upon them, to redeem them, and to save them. And throughout Isaiah, we've seen this kind of picture that they're going to be taken captive by the Babylonians. You remember, there's this short narrative story in the middle of Isaiah where it talks about Hezekiah trusting in God and being saved from the Assyrians, but then opening up the treasuries so that the Babylonians can see. And there's a promise that God's going to bring the Babylonians in and take them captive. And so there is a lot of promises aside from that judgment that are primarily about how God is going to save His people from that captivity. He even calls Cyrus by name, saying He's going to bring Cyrus, and Cyrus is going to set the people free, and it's going to be something unlike anything anyone has ever done before. God is promising the future. He's foretelling the future and making these promises very direct and very specific, that He will save His people. And connected with those promises of saving from captivity are the promises that He will bring His servant to do that, and that His servant will bring the people in and bless the people with all kinds of blessings. And so as we come to the last part of this wonderful book, what we're going to see a lot of being portrayed is the blessings of the kingdom and what the kingdom is going to be like. And as he's writing it, remember, he's writing it to the people who are in captivity or the people who have returned from captivity, who are going to be looking forward to the day when God finally establishes all of these things. And so what He promises them are things that they would very much be looking forward to. And so chapter 60 is just the beginning of this. And so I hope that we can all study this together, understand what it says, and then draw some kind of understanding based on the New Testament. So first of all, let's look again at the first verse, and let's join with it the second verse. It says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. For behold, darkness shall cover the earth, and thick darkness the peoples. But the Lord will arise upon you, and his glory will be seen upon you." Notice in these words that there is a light that he is promising to bring. And he says, your light has come. Arise and shine. This is a command to start with. Arise and shine. He's telling someone, get up and start shining because your light has come. Well, what is he talking about? What is this light? Well, notice the further description in verse 1. "And the glory of the Lord has risen upon you." So that's parallel, right? We're studying Psalms, so I got to bring that up. Your light has come. The glory of the Lord has risen upon you. So the light is the glory of the Lord coming and rising upon those who he's talking about. So just like you see that light beam coming in through those thick, dark clouds, there is something that God says he's doing that is going to bring his glory, his light upon the earth. And it's going to shed light and bring light to those who are in thick darkness. Look at verse 2. The second half, again, repeats this idea, parallels it. "But the Lord will arise upon you, and his glory will be seen upon you." So even though there's darkness all over the earth, that's what he said in other chapters. Remember, he talked about all the sin and darkness are commonly referring to the same thing. Even though there's all this darkness on the earth, God is planning to arise and set his glory on someone. Well, who's he talking about? He's gonna put his glory. His glory is going to be seen upon you. Well, who's the you? Well, that's interesting. I think we could guess. Hopefully, we could, because whenever Jesus comes into the world, he says, "I am the light of the world." That's who he is. He is the light. He is the one who God's glory has been set upon. And so as we read this, and what he's saying and what he's talking about here is God bringing his glory upon the earth and setting it upon a man, and setting it upon specifically Jesus. But what's also interesting about this, and as we read through this chapter, we're going to see this, we're also called the light, right? In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, blessed are the meek, blessed are all of those that Sean mentioned this morning." And then he goes on to say, "You are the light of the world." All those who fit into the criteria that he mentions are going to be blessed. They are the light of the world. So the light apparently is Jesus, very clearly portrayed as Jesus. But also he says, all of you who are humble and lowly, you are the light as well. And as we study through this chapter, we're going to see that even though it is apparently referring to Jesus, the servant, it is also referring to God's people, and specifically to us who are in the kingdom. So as we read through this, somehow we have to figure out how this is connected to us, and what he's talking about is us. Whenever we start in verse 3, this is a section that continues all the way through verse 18. And it's a picture of the blessed, okay? It's giving us a picture. As we read through this, okay, the best thing that we can do anytime we're looking at pictures, just like in Revelation, right? Whenever we're reading those pictures, it's like, oh, where are we? What are we talking about? Why are we talking about this? We get so lost. The best thing we can do is see the picture, okay? Understand what he's talking about and what he's saying, and see it as he's talking to the Israelites in this chapter about a blessing he's going to provide for them as a result of the light coming into the world. Okay? And these are blessings that will be provided to them that are written in a way that Israelites would understand. Okay? And what Israelites would be really hoping for and excited about. If you were an Israelite who is returned from captivity or is stuck in captivity, the blessings he's about to portray would be really, really valuable to you. Okay? So we're going to read through this in order to understand it. We're going to kind of break it up into parts and help you understand what is going to happen to his light. Okay, and what is this light going to do? And that's what he's talking about. But as he's revealing what will happen to the light, what the light will do, we'll see. This is about how God is going to accomplish his kingdom and what his kingdom is going to be like. All right, I've explained enough. Let's see. Verse 3. His glory will be seen upon you, in verse 3, and nations shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes all around and see. They all gather together. They come to you. Your sons shall come from afar, and your daughters shall be carried on the hip. Then you shall see and be radiant. Your heart shall thrill and exult, because the abundance of the sea shall be turned to you. The wealth of the nations shall come to you. Let's stop there. Notice here he gives this picture that the nations are going to be drawn to you. They're all going to be coming, and they're going to be bringing your sons and your daughters, and that's from captivity. That's what that would be interpreted as, okay? So there's this picture of all these nations are just going to be drawn to your light like bugs drawn to a bug zapper. You know, they're just going to be coming, and they're going to be bringing your sons and your daughters with them in order to bring you back those whom they've taken. And there's this picture at the end, the wealth of the nations shall come to you. And as you continue, you see more about that. Abundance of wealth is going to be brought. Verse 6, a multitude of camels shall cover you, the young camels of Midian and Ephah. All those from Sheba shall come. They shall bring gold and frankincense, and shall bring good news, the praises of the Lord. All the flocks of Kedar shall be gathered to you. The rams of Nebaioth shall minister to you. They shall come up with acceptance on my altar, and I will beautify my beautiful house. Who are these that fly like a cloud, and like doves to their windows? For the coastlands shall hope for me, the ships of Tarshish first, to bring your children from afar, their silver and gold with them, for the name of the Lord your God and for the Holy One of Israel, because he has made you beautiful. Notice this picture of bringing in their silver, bringing in their gold, bringing in their frankincense, bringing in their people. I mean, overall, it's just this picture of because of what God has done, because God has brought this light, and now they are shining, or he is shining. All these nations are coming in, and they're flying in, and the children are being lifted up on pedestals and being like flying in on doves. I mean, there's this picture of everybody who belongs to God is being brought into this place, this person, whatever it is, where the light is. They're being all drawn in, and all the silver and gold with them to provide blessings. Now, if you're an Israelite who's reading through this, you're feeling like, okay, he's probably talking about Jerusalem. He's probably talking about Zion. He's talking about what very similar to what happened whenever David became king. This is what the nations did. They brought their surpluses to Solomon. They brought them to David. They provided them for him. And nations that he didn't even know brought him all kinds of gifts, hoping to be his ally because they recognized God was with him. And so that's essentially a restoration of the kingdom of David being established yet again. He has made you beautiful. They're coming because you're beautiful. They're coming because you're glorious. God's glory has been poured out upon you, and they're offering sacrifices acceptable on my altar, and they're beautifying my house. I'm beautifying my house through them. So all these wonderful blessings are being poured out in Zion, in this city, to the light that God has shown. Notice as you continue, it says, verse 10, foreigners shall build up your walls, and their kings shall minister to you. For in my wrath I struck you, but in my favor I had mercy on you. Your gates shall be open continually, day and night. They shall not be shut, that people may bring to you the wealth of the nations, with their kings led in procession. For the nations and kingdom that will not serve you shall perish. Those nations shall be utterly laid waste. The glory of Lebanon shall come to you, the cypress, the plane, the pine, to beautify the place of my sanctuary. And I will make the place of my feet glorious. The sons of those who afflict you shall come bending low to you, and all who despised you shall bow down at your feet. They shall call you the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel. This is a picture of God completely reversing the shame and the humiliation that he brought upon them because of their wickedness. All of that's being reversed now. All those kings that gloried in the shame of Jerusalem and the shame of God's people are now going to be brought to shame. They're going to be led in procession. That's where the ruler who conquered their nation would take the king in a parade and chain him and force him to lead the parade, and everybody would throw things at him. And that's kind of the picture, is all those who oppose the king are being ashamed and they're being punished because of that. And the picture is that God's place and God's city is being beautified, is being blessed, is being exalted and glorified, because God has brought about this total reversal. Did you notice at the end there, they shall call you the city of the Lord, the Zion of the Holy One of Israel? And so up until this point, it's kind of like, it feels like we're talking about the city. It feels like we're talking about the nation. And then he just finally comes out and says it. But at the beginning, it's like, oh, well, this is obviously talking about Jesus. It's obviously talking about us. That's the New Testament ideas that we see very clearly throughout the New Testament. But overall, you see he's painting a picture of Zion and how God's going to bless it. You continue and you notice even more. The shame aspect is being removed. There's glory and there's prosperity in the land. And then we get to verse 15. He says, whereas you have been forsaken and hated, with no one passing through, I will make you majestic forever, a joy from age to age. You shall suck the milk of nations. You shall nurse at the breast of kings. And you shall know that I, the Lord, am your Savior and your Redeemer, the Mighty One of Jacob. Instead of bronze, I will bring you gold. And instead of iron, I will bring you silver. Instead of wood, bronze. Instead of stones, iron. I will make your overseers peace, and your taskmasters righteousness. Violence shall no more be heard in your land. Devastation and destruction within your borders. You shall call your walls salvation, and your gates praise. Notice here he talks about a lot about peace and security. Earlier we also saw a little bit of that, right? Whenever he said that the gates would be open night and day, that's a picture of complete security, that there's no fear of anyone ever coming against you. I mean, every night a city would close its gates and its doors. It wouldn't want an army to just rush in while everybody's sleeping. But here there's a picture of complete peace and security, and that all these nations are just providing tribute. They're providing everything that the people need. It's portrayed as you're sucking the milk of the nation. You're nursing off of the king. So you're getting everything you need from all of these surrounding nations. So again, a picture of the greatness of a kingdom. That this is the kingdom of kingdoms on all the earth. And everything is going well and easy for this kingdom. You can see how if you were a Jew who had returned from captivity, or a Jew who was in captivity, You could read this chapter and your thoughts would be, we're going to be the greatest ever. We're going to be better than Babylon. We're going to be better than the Persians. We're going to be better than the Greeks. We're going to be better than the Romans. God says this is going to be an everlasting joy that He's going to provide His people, an eternal security, because He's going to be with us and He's never going to leave us. And there's also a picture. I will make your overseers peace and your taskmasters righteousness. There's this picture of God is going to have peace and righteousness all over the kingdom, all over the land. And that's really what you would want in the kingdom. You remember Habakkuk and how he was so upset because there was so much wickedness throughout the nation. And he was crying out saying, God, how long is it going to be this way? When are you going to do something about all the unrighteousness among your people? And he says, don't worry about it. I'm bringing the Babylonians in. They're going to wipe everybody out. Habakkuk's like, I don't like that. That's not a good solution, you know. What the real solution is that Habakkuk was hoping for is for all of the wicked to be done away with and for the land to be filled with righteousness. For the land to be filled with peace because nobody is seeking to harm their neighbor. Everyone is seeking to do good and to love their neighbor as themselves. Everyone is keeping the law and doing justice and righteousness. And that's what He's portraying in this kingdom. That's what He's saying He's going to provide for His people. You continue into the next section. So that was all really just one section detailing the nature of the kingdom and how God's going to pour out His blessings on this city and provide it to where there will be no violence, where there will be innumerable blessings and glory for all the people. But also look at verse 19. The sun shall be no more, your light by day, nor for brightness shall the moon give you light. But the Lord will be your everlasting light, and your God will be your glory. Your sun shall no more go down, nor your moon withdraw itself. For the Lord will be your everlasting light, and your days of mourning shall be ended. Your people shall all be righteous. They shall possess the land forever. The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I may be glorified. The least one shall become a clan, and the smallest one a mighty nation. I am the Lord. In its time, I will hasten it. As you look at this last section, it becomes very obvious He's talking about the city of God. He's talking about the people of God. And He's saying, you will be a blessed city where God will be with you and where you will be with God always. And that's the picture. And it sounds very Revelation. You should recognize these words from Revelation, the end of Revelation, that there's no need for a sun. There's no need for a moon because God is going to be their light. He's going to be their source of light. He's always going to be with them, and He's going to help them to see and to understand what is true and what is good, instead of them relying on something that might go away or might be covered up. There's no longer any of that, but there is something else. There is an eternal source of truth, of instruction, of wisdom, and of knowledge. That's what the light is really referring to here, that God is going to provide them with an eternal source of understanding, and that He's going to be with them, and He's going to help them as they go through their lives. That's what the city is being brought. But also, did you notice this terminology of a branch? The people, verse 21, shall all be righteous and shall possess the land forever. Then he says, the branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I might be glorified. Notice the people are being portrayed here as the righteous and the branch, his workmanship. All of this sounds very New Testament, that God would transform us into righteous people, and that we would be his branches. Remember, Jesus says in John 15, I am the vine and you are the branches. And there's very much the same kind of picture. Paul uses this same idea in chapter 11, that there's an olive tree and that we are the branches who have been grafted in. We're wild branches that are grafted in. And in Ephesians chapter 2, we are called his workmanship. So the New Testament writers knew that this was referring to their kingdom, what they are experiencing and what they're enjoying. And if you had any question about that, notice verse 22, the least one shall become a clan, and the smallest one a mighty nation. I am the Lord. So there's this statement of the least or the greatest. That's another very New Testament idea, that God is hoping to bring about righteousness and peace and joy in this kingdom, and that his people who are weak and lowly will be lifted up. That's what the Beatitudes were all about, and that's what the New Testament is all about. Also notice at the end of verse 22, in its time I will hasten it. There's a promise here that God is going to bring this about in its time. It's going to happen in its time. Whenever he has decided it to happen, it will happen. It will take place. And so there's this promise that God is going to bring this about. Now again, if you were a Jew who was in captivity or had just gotten out of captivity, would this not be your favorite chapter in all the Old Testament? You'd be so excited to see the fruition of all of these things. And this is very much what the Jews were looking forward to as we come into the New Testament. So as Jesus and John the Baptist comes in and says, the kingdom of heaven is at hand, the kingdom of God is near, they would have been going to this text and saying, it's about to happen. Zion, the city of Jerusalem, is about to be the greatest city to have ever existed. And yet, whenever Jesus comes onto the scene, throughout the book of John, it's painted very clearly, my kingdom is not of this world. Jesus makes it clear that these are not physical things that will be experienced on this earth, but these are things that will be experienced in his spiritual kingdom. And all of his people will enjoy these spiritual blessings in the heavenly places. Now that's kind of hard. That's kind of difficult for us to see and to grasp and to understand, and yet that is very much what's going on throughout this text. And Isaiah is trying to help God's people understand that he has a kingdom that is waiting for them, that is not anything like they've ever experienced before. It's a kingdom full of plenty, full of prosperity, full of righteousness and joy, and it's all eternal, and all the nations are going to provide for them and give them everything that they need. So we go back to the beginning of this and we ask ourselves, how is it that this is going to apply to us? We're New Testament Christians, right? So as we read through all this, should we be looking to go back to the land of Israel and for God to establish that kingdom and for us to live there among the Jews and for all the nations to come in and bring us all these blessings? Or are we the nations that's supposed to be bringing all these things into that city, Jerusalem and Zion? Or is this something else? Well, as we read the New Testament, what we see is we are the light of the world. Matthew 5 very clearly calls us the light of the world. And so all the nations are being drawn to the city of God, and the city is providing light. So as you transition through this text, you see we are the light of the world, and the city is the light of the world, and we are a part of that city. This is a heavenly Jerusalem, a new Jerusalem that we're a part of. So as we read this command, arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. That is a statement that God has provided his light. He's provided the understanding. He is now giving us the opportunity to understand and see his glory through the man Jesus Christ. And now we become lights who shine in all the world. And we're being commanded to shine. Notice this is a command. Arise, shine, for your light has come. This is not a text that was written to the people in the Old Testament who the light had not come to yet. The light of the world is Jesus, and now that he has come, we are being commanded to arise and shine. So the question for us is, how are we going to shine in such a way that all the nations come and they desire to bless and praise and glorify God's people and God himself? There's another idea here. Well, that's a little bit odd. You got that? Great, thanks. There's another idea here that we kind of overlook. Look at verse 21. Your people shall all be righteous. They shall possess the land forever. The branch of my planting, the work of my hands, that I might be glorified. You see in this the need for us to arise and shine because God is to be glorified. And God is to be exalted and he is to be lifted up. And so our goal, our mission is to shine so that the nations can come and they can beautify the temple and they can glorify God so that even more people will see God's glory and bring even more stuff in. And so overall, this idea of arising and shining is very, very important for us. If we are the light of the world, we must not take the light and hide it under a bushel, hide it under a basket. We must arise and let it shine. So what does that mean? Well, that means that we let go of our control of our lives. We let go of our desire to receive comfort, our desire to have the best possible life on this earth, and instead we make our mission God's mission, to spread the truth of how glorious our God is. Shining the light everywhere, that we trust in God. We don't trust in ourselves. That was the lesson that we were supposed to learn from Israel and Judah and their failures. We're supposed to be people who trust in God and strive to do what it is that God has called us to do. And also, the idea of being a light means we're shedding light on what other people are supposed to do. Everybody else around us is doing one thing, and we are supposed to be totally different. They're all in the dark, and we are the light. So we're supposed to stand out, and we're supposed to expose what is in the dark. And Jesus said in John chapter 3 that he is the light, and he has come to expose what is in the dark. And people hated him for it. People love the darkness, and they hate the light because the light exposes their wickedness. And so we also, as we become the light, we are going to be different from everybody else. And if we're going to arise and shine so that all the nations can see that God's ways are better, if we're going to be more righteous than the people around us, if we're going to glorify God, we have to stand out. We have to be different. And that's what this text is calling for us to do. It's calling for us to believe that God is trying to shine through me so that all those in darkness are drawn to the light. And that's who we're supposed to be. That's what this text is calling us to be. This is a New Testament text. So we need to remember, as we study this text, we need to remember that our mission is to shine the light. And it's not our light. We're not trying to get glory for ourselves. We're just trying to let God's light shine through us and help everybody to see how glorious our Savior is, how glorious our God is for what he's done for us. And as we read through all these blessings, we need to understand God has promised us tremendous spiritual blessings in the heavenly places. An eternal home is awaiting us, where all of these spiritual blessings will be realized in the fullest sense, that we will have peace, that we will have joy, that we will experience no more concerns about anything. And right now, there's a sense in which we have peace, and we have joy, and we have prosperity, and we have blessings. And God is with us. Picture throughout this is We are going to shine God's light because God is going to be with us and help us become His light. He is always promising to be with us. And His Word is illuminating our lives. We're not lost in the darkness anymore. We have the light of God given to us so that we can see and understand His wisdom and His strength and His power. And we can take hold of that and make that a part of our lives. And that's really what Isaiah chapter 60 is trying to get across to us. It's not easy. I understand these are hard pictures for us. A lot of people get twisted around the axle with these ideas because this is not talking about physical restoration of the kingdom. Jesus made that clear, and the Jews didn't want to believe it. They were all upset. They were like, "What are you talking about? When are you going to destroy the Romans?" John the Baptist was even upset about that. Thought you were coming with justice to judge and to condemn. And Jesus said, "I didn't come to judge. I came to set you free, to give you the truth, to be the light." And that's exactly what Jesus wants to do for all of us. Because there is a judgment day coming. He will judge and He will condemn all those who continue in their sin and refuse to repent and come to the light and have their deeds exposed, confessing their sins, repenting of them, and being forgiven. Those who refuse to do that, there is a judgment that is waiting for them. And so our mission and our goal is, first of all, to come to the light. Maybe you're feeling drawn to the light right now. To come to that light, to let your deeds be exposed, find forgiveness, find redemption, find escape and freedom from the captivity that you feel ensnared to, and experience all these spiritual blessings in your life. And God promises to be with you and to help you to become righteous and to become a light in the darkness. And that's ultimately what we're all called to be as Christians. If you're here tonight and you're struggling in some way, you need to make something right with God, we want to help you in any way that we can. Please let us know what you need. Please come as we stand and as we sing.